I'm here today with Melissa Salfi. Salfi?
Yes.
Salfi.
Yeah. There's actually no accurate way of pronouncing it because I'm sure it was pronounced differently originally. It's my husband's name. It wasn't my maiden name, so
Oh, nice.
I don't know.
We are both fertility law firm owners. In 2025, we both started our own firms.
Yeah.
Wow.
Exciting. I know.
Exciting.
It's crazy.
It's crazy.
Yes. Dreams come true.
Totally
Yes.
dreams come true.
Yes.
It's the best.
Yeah.
But it's also really hard.
I know, for sure.
Yeah.
No, there's definitely challenges, right? Being like a business owner, it's like, and practicing law at the same time. It's,
doing everything yourself, obviously doing our own filming, and marketing, and you know, everything. It's a lot of work, but when you love what you do, it makes it easier. Yeah.
Yes. Agreed.
Yes.
Like I don't think I could have my own firm if it was in any other area. I mean, obviously I do family law too, but if I think back to, like, I've dabbled in some other areas of law and I just didn't have the same passion. So if you're going to start your own firm, you need to have like that fire for the area you're practicing in.
I like that fire. Yes, you do have to have the fire, because otherwise, like, the amount of work, you know, it's like 24/7, especially in the beginning years. Although you're in the beginning of starting your firm, you've been working in this area for much longer than I have, and you have a good grasp on the landscape. But getting into an area, any area, you do have to love it, because it's all day.
Yeah. No, definitely. And I think it shows, like, your clients can tell if you're passionate or not. And if you have that passion, it leads to more business, because people feel that you care, people feel like you're invested in them, and just translates into, you know, putting out that positive energy in the universe.
Especially
people are
in
just
this
drawn
area.
to that. It can't just be a job.
No.
Like it can't just be like a day-to-day job.
No, it's a calling.
No. But for you, like, I think you had that calling because you were working like in a fertility clinic. So you knew even before going to law school, like, this was your path, right?
Yeah, I didn't know what it would look like.
No.
Though. Like, I had no idea what a fertility lawyer actually did. I applied to law school like we all do, and I was like, this is what I'd like to do.
Yeah.
But you don't know until you're in it what the work looks like.
Yes.
And that is always changing. You're like, literally every day I have to learn something new.
Yeah. And so, like, you went though with the intention of doing this?
Yes. It was in my
really cool.
write-ups to, you know, you have to do like a 500 word. And I was like, I think this is a really interesting growing area. And at the time, I got met with like a lot of pushback, like after I got into law school, from like OCIs and doing firms, and they were like
more like saying that that's pigeonholing yourself, or and that you should go to like do the big firm thing.
And so fertility law.
Yeah. What even is that?
I still get that. Like, what is it?
Yes.
And the big firms and other people are like, okay. But I always knew I wanted to do it. So every choice I made in law school, whether it was like taking health law or writing papers, it was always fertility law was the topic. And I remember I wrote one paper in conflict of laws, and it was on jurisdictions and how a Japanese couple could come to Canada and have a baby here, and, you know, jurisdiction shopping. And I didn't realize in third year law school writing that paper how international fertility law really is. Like, let's talk about that. It is not just Canada, it's not just provinces, the entire world is working together all the time.
And I think it's becoming more and more as we see, like, also dynamics shift, right? Like with what's going on in the States, like some people now are not interested in using surrogates in the States, which is causing a lot of Canadians returning to the US because they have commercial surrogacy in some of the states and we don't. Surrogacy is altruistic here. But now with the politics and the costs, some are turning away from that and looking at other parts in the world, or trying to find a surrogate in Canada more so. And so, you know, I've seen some dynamics shifting, like just based on what's happening in the world.
Yeah.
Which I find interesting.
And I saw today a CBA presentation on immigration law on refugees for LGBT people coming to Canada as refugees.
Oh.
There's not a lot of precedent here for refugees, but we have such a strong relationship with the States. And yeah, there's just people who are fleeing the States to come here for that reason, and then other countries not wanting to obviously do surrogacy there, because what happens if you have a baby there and this executive order goes through that says that there's no birthright citizenship.
That's fascinating.
That's what he's trying to get rid of, is birthright citizenship.
Wow, my gosh. Right, exactly. I did hear about that, but I didn't know the extent of it.
So,
interesting.
Like our immigration policies, there is a lot of challenges there. I think any immigration lawyer in Canada would say that, you know, there's things scaling back, but at least we are still seen as a global partner, and that we are at least a better option. It's just our laws here are not as lenient around things like expenses being paid is all that you can do as a surrogate here. I know it is like the number one thing when I tell people that, like, they're like, what?
Yeah.
It's always a surprise to people, but that's our laws here. So don't pay your surrogates in Canada. Expenses only.
And I saw recently that in Australia, so international commercial surrogacy is illegal.
Yeah.
But a lot of Australians are using surrogates in the States or in other countries. And apparently now someone's been prosecuted.
Yes, I saw that recently.
And it's happened in the past, but the judge found that, you know, it wouldn't be in the best interest of this child who's loved by the parents for them to both go to jail over this, obviously. But they want to set some sort of example to deter other intended parents from doing like international commercial surrogacy. I don't know if they would take it further, but I thought that was interesting.
That is super interesting. And what does everyone think? Do you think that it should be criminalized? I mean, in Australia, there are reasons why people go, and they're similar to the reasons why Canadians go to other countries. And I would say that it's really difficult to work within the bounds of the law and find someone who's willing to do this for you. And then the cost is really, like, it. The laws are set up to make people jurisdiction shop.
No, definitely, because it's, when you think about doing it altruistically here, there's a potential that the surrogate will be out of pocket, even though she's going to be reimbursed for her expenses. And what abilities does she have to enforce the agreement? Like, how much is that going to cost her if she wasn't reimbursed? So there's some problems there. It's interesting because here, obviously in Canada, you can go to another jurisdiction and do commercial surrogacy elsewhere. You can buy sperm from the States, you can buy eggs from the States, but you can't do any of that within our borders.
It's a huge cost.
Yeah.
To get these things.
Yeah.
So
it's only accessible when you think about it to a certain segment of the population.
Totally.
It's terrible. I mean, I'm glad that there's now IVF funding coming in, but I hope it's going to be enough. A lot of people are going to have trouble accessing, and one round might not be enough, right? So you'll have to go through multiple rounds. Unfortunate how expensive it is.
To that, I wish that more people, like, it just comes down, and this is why, you know, we're making this video, is awareness. Like, nobody knows this stuff.
I know. There's just a lot of things that the legislation thinks people should know, like that you need to provide written consent for somebody to be able to use your reproductive material after death, for instance. Like, but who is doing that really in practice? Nobody who's writing a will is thinking about that. Yeah, saying like, oh, if I pass away, my wife can use retrieve sperm from my body and use that to create a sibling. It's at least, it's still possible, but it's not ideal.
No, it's
and I've
not
had a few
ideal.
people like that too, who just weren't aware.
Yes.
But for surrogacy, that wouldn't be possible because it needs to be entered into prior to conception. There's a lot of trust that goes into these agreements, I think, at the end of the day, because we don't know what the recourse would be if usually they enter into a bunch of waivers, right? That they're not going to sue each other if the child's born with any abnormalities or anything. But if somebody really significantly, materially misrepresented their health, then I wonder, would a court order any costs? What could the consequences be?
I kind of look to personal injury lawyers around
and I'm sure there's delved into this.
And their work around, misrepresentation of the surrogate or the sperm donor. I think that it's just people are paying so much for IVF, and I wish it wasn't. I think it should be covered 100% for every aspect of it. But, you get to a point and maybe your child is born, and then the question of going through more court. I think any lawyer, I know you do a lot of collaborative law.
Yeah.
And none of us want you to go and pay thousands of dollars for this. It's just there's no regulation that unless you go through a clinic and you do it the right way. But if you're trying to make these agreements on the side or not even consulting a lawyer, there's just so many risks.
Definitely. Yeah, it's definitely prohibitive, I think, to be able to think that people can go and afford litigation afterwards.
Totally.
And we haven't seen much litigation in the field.
No.
And I'm wondering if that's going to pick up as this is increasing. And we're seeing, I think, a huge increase in demand for our services. And I feel like as a result, at some point, there's going to be more litigation. There have been some cases, but compared to other areas, very little. I met this lovely man him and his partner, they had gone through a few different agencies and spent more than $100,000 on agencies and on egg bank, and they still didn't have a baby. They didn't have a surrogate yet.
Wow.
They can't guarantee a match within Canada because that would be a breach of the legislation.
Yeah.
And they felt like they hadn't really, tried to match them that hard. They had given some options, so they were really disappointed. And then now they were going to start the process in the States and they were about to spend another $40,000 US with the surrogacy agency there. It's just this is prohibitive they luckily can afford it. It's still very stressful. They had to sell a bunch of their assets to do this, but some people can never even do that.
Totally. I saw that Grindr has $300,000 for its employees. That's amazing. I think it's in 5 years. Well, good job them, but totally makes sense because it's a gay company. But I think that there's companies in Canada that are starting Sprout Family that are trying to get more employers to pay for this stuff.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a good healthcare plan, it is just such a hidden market and a hidden cost.
I think it's going to improve over time.
Absolutely.
And become more accessible. It's going in that direction, and so hopefully it continues as there's more awareness of infertility. It's a lot of people don't realize that it affects 1 in 6 people globally, and that's a huge number.
Yeah.
So it
is a huge number.
And then there are other people outside of that who are accessing these services, same-sex couples, the LGBTQI plus community, and single parents who want to have a child on their own. So it's not just infertility.
Totally. Even if one person needs it, that's one person who wouldn't be able to do it otherwise. And if you're going to take care of your employees, then I think it's important that you're there for everybody. And it is not common to see. I know Scotiabank does it.
Okay.
Lululemon, I think.
Amazing.
Arc'teryx. you know, it's almost like corporate.
Well, that's like, I mean, that's encouraging because like I saw an employment lawyer post on LinkedIn, Catherine Marshall. She posted that something along the lines of she had met with quite a few clients who had been fired due to like maternity leave or announcing their pregnancy, which is honestly very common.
Yeah.
So it's encouraging to see at least that there's some shift, although I'm sure there's still a lot of this.
We all know
awful
women who announce their pregnancies to their employers. I have friends that have gone through absolute hell.
Yeah.
It is so hard to do a maternity leave, and then you have to have a workplace that's going to be supportive. So, you know, add IVF on and be like, I'm actually trying and planning because there's all these early morning appointments you have to go to. Imagine bringing that up to them, because then they're like, you're obviously trying to get pregnant, and then you have to let them know, like, oh, actually, no, it didn't work this time. I'm glad that she is on it. I'm sure Forte Law is on it.
Yes.
I'm sure that all the employment lawyers who are watching, like, please help. Because maternity isn't going away.
No.
We need children.
And at the end of the day, I really think that a lot of workplaces are very short-sighted. Like, they don't realize that this is like a temporary time. But then, you know, this person, if you treat them well, they're going to come back.
Yeah.
And they're going to be, like, mothers are, like, the hardest workers.
The hardest workers.
Like, just, we can do so much. So it's unfortunate that that's the case.
So short-sighted. And I think women just have held on to this burden for decades and not gotten any support. You know, talk about perimenopause and menopause, all of the changes, endometriosis, all of the things that women and people with uteruses have that are hormone changes, maternity. Like, we go through so much, and you know, the workday is built around 24-hour testosterone, you know, the male body. And women's bodies in the workplace, it's like, oh, I have really bad cramps. It's like, oh, too bad.
Or like when you're pregnant, like you're not going to be at your full capacity.
No.
You're going to be attending multiple appointments. You're going to be sick. And so I appreciate firms like, I mean, like Y Law, for instance, who have introduced policies on pregnancy leave. I think that's really innovative and like, just...
One of them, like, have, like, there are so
there are
few
exceptions.
firms.
There are exceptions.
There are great firms
There's
that
some exceptions.
are making
and some
headway.
Really, like, amazing firms out there that we see take on these initiatives.
Absolutely. And that's so encouraging. I would hire moms. I would definitely hire people who are child-free. Like, I'd be open to it, but, like,
no, it's so amazing when you see that. A friend of mine who started her firm in January, Rena Chen, she hired someone who's going on mat leave in May.
Wow.
Which I was like, good for you. But she has, you know, she knows her. She knows she's got good work ethic, and she trusts, you know, she'll come back, and she's treated her amazingly. And I think that that's really just like a huge testament to her.
Absolutely. And when it comes to surrogates as well, I thought about this last week. About surrogates who...
They're discriminated in the workplace.
Right.
I'm sure there must be.
Oh, I'm sure they get all sorts of inappropriate questions and are fielding things like, oh, that's not your baby, or...
You're going to take time off after?
And that's really a question for the lawyer, which is surrogates towards the end of a pregnancy. So you get gestational diabetes, you get put off work, and then is that time going to be reimbursed by the parents? You have to get a doctor's note. So... giving birth, being pregnant, heck of a lot of work. And it is a quasi, I don't know how you feel about this, there's an element of it that's like employment law-esque.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about that.
I know, sometimes I feel like I'm giving advice that is better suited for an employment lawyer. There's definitely times in fertility law that I've thought about that in terms of like wage reimbursement. And like if they go on bed rest, or if like complications arise, even with like egg donation, if they have ovarian hyperstimulation syndrome, you know, the contract only provides for a certain amount of reimbursement and what's the employer's obligation. But yeah, I mean, really, we're operating in different areas because we're also like the HRA is, it's a criminal criminal area as well. When you think about it, like if you breach certain parts of the Assisted Human Reproduction Act, you can be, as we talked about, it's a criminal offense, and you can go to jail for up to 10 years, which is just wild to me. Like, it's like we can't get, sex offenders in jail for 10 years.
So we're lucky in that sense, and people tend to get along.
Yeah, mainly. I actually, in my 6 years of doing this, I've only seen 2 relatively minor disputes, and they were both resolved through the help of counseling or the lawyers.
Counseling.
Interesting. And one of them, we sent them to the fertility counselor to just have a discussion about it, and they came back from the session with an outcome. And that was with respect to vaccination, because we hadn't addressed it in the contracts before COVID, and the intended parents wanted the surrogate to get vaccinated. The surrogate did not want to get vaccinated. There was nothing in the contract dealing with it. So, but they, in a counseling session, resolved it. So I think, mainly, people who do this, especially in Canada, they really want to try to make it work and get along. But I'm sure, there are cases where there are going to be more disputes. I'd be interested to see if there's going to be more mediation or alternative dispute resolution in the field. I would love to mediate in this field.
You would do such a great job at that.
So that is something that would excite me a lot, to be a mediator on a fertility file. Has not happened.
It will, though. I could see that.
Maybe eventually.
Question about the counseling. Was it both parties were being counseled at the same time?
I think they went to almost like a family counseling session.
That's a great way to
talk it out. And just the counselor was facilitating. So almost like a mediation in some way.
I really like that, because
probably a lot less expensive than dealing with lawyers, right? So I think it's a good option. I've actually sent a few people to counseling before retaining my services.
Right.
So an example was, there was a potential client contacted me with a bit of a strange scenario. He was going to donate sperm to his girlfriend, but he was still married, and his wife didn't know about the mistress. And he had a son. I said, obviously, ethically, I didn't feel great about this, taking this case. I just thought him and his mistress should go and talk out this scenario in counseling before even committing to this idea. It's going to have really wide implications on his marriage, his child. There's just so many different layers to it. The child who will be born. And so, as far as I know, they went to a counseling session, but they never came back to me. He never came back to me. So who knows? Maybe it fell apart at that point, or he found another lawyer that was working. But if somebody comes with a scenario like this where they're not going through a clinic necessarily, then I think it's on us to try to facilitate.
So he was donating his sperm to give her a child?
It was going to be through at home, home insemination.
So that's just having a child, right? Kind of?
Well, they're in a but it's assisted reproduction still. So he still wanted to be a donor. He did not want to be a parent.
Oh, interesting.
Yes. Yeah.
I gotcha.
I know. So there wasn't going to be sexual intercourse. Sometimes I really have concerns about the person's wish for total confidentiality. It happened to me in one case where I was representing the sperm donor, and he was friends with the intended mother. She was a single woman, wanted to have a child.
Yep.
He, despite being her friend and he was still going to be in her life, he wanted it to be very clear that the child could never know the identity of the donor, which I thought was unfair and problematic, because donor conceived children should have the right to know
totally
where they came from, their story.
Yeah.
And it's also putting the mom in a bad position where she might have to lie to her child because she's still friends with this person too. And so I felt very uncomfortable with that, and I think that we ended up finding a mutual agreement in the end that worked for both of them, protecting his confidentiality in some way, but not completely. But it was one of those that I thought, where confidentiality has gone almost too far. Like, that's amazing.
Which is because of those exact scenarios. I knew that Norway and Denmark and places like that are very popular for sperm. I learned that in the Harvard course, was like, this is where, you know, a ton of it comes from. And I think it's because the laws are so good.
Yeah.
And there are just too many horror stories of, you know, prolific sperm donors.
Yes.
And there's no cap, and that scares the hell out of me. Even in Canada, I've heard of like small town, like there was like a father-son trio of people who like populated this small town of Quebec.
Gosh, I can't.
They were the go-to sperm donors, and like everybody's. It's just a mess.
No, that's reassuring that there's a cap.
Yeah,
that's really nice.
I was like, I want a cap.
Good research.
But de-identifying and known versus unknown sperm donor, and then the relationship is so fraught because in some cases, like for example, sperm and men's sperm is really struggling, quality, amount, and people don't know until they get their sperm tested, motility, all that stuff. You know, there are cases where people will just try to find a sperm donor who looks the most like dad, and then probably plan to never tell their children. Some people don't ever want to tell their children. Just like telling someone who's that they're, like we were talking about earlier, you find out 18 years later that you're adopted.
And I think that doesn't have good mental health consequences, is my understanding. So I know that counselors recommend like tell early and tell often. So before age 3, I think there was a study where the donor conceived children who were told before age 3 fared better mentally than ones who were told after age 3. And you think like you didn't absorb that stuff at that age, but you do, like in many ways. But you have to, the tell often part is also key. It's not just like tell once.
No.
Keep telling the story.
Yeah. Oh, there's got to be a children book out there for that conversation. If you tell them the story, like, you know, these are your parents, but especially like lesbians who have, and gay men, obviously they're brought up with that knowledge. But if you have a mommy and daddy and you try to describe that daddy's your daddy, but there was also someone else who helped us get pregnant, and then age appropriate.
Yes, exactly. I'm sure there's tons of articles on how to tell that in an age appropriate way.
Totally.
Yes. I remember my daughter when she was 4, she asked me, "Are you my real mom?"
What?
Yeah.
Wow, that's so interesting. Like, they learn things.
Yeah, they learn things like earlier nowadays.
Yeah. I bet they do.
So they're thinking about things like at a much earlier age.
And that's kind of like why I think Gen Z is going to be, like, our business is only growing, and it's because of awareness. Yeah. And Gen Z is so anxious about the world, rightfully so. Climate change is crazy, but they're anxious about their fertility. And I think that there's more and more research, like you find out you have endometriosis and you find out you have this, that, and they're just more aware that this is a possibility. And
more ready to talk about it and open about it.
Yeah.
Because I remember, like, I found out in my 20s I had endometriosis, and I was kind of like, oh, well, I just hope for the best. Let's just hope that it works out.
Yes.
And, like, I wasn't proactive at all. But I feel like the new generation's much more proactive, which is nice.
Yeah, and they're very, you know, there's more polycules and multiple ways of making families that they're more open about.
Yes.
And
more accepting.
Yeah, more accepting of that, and, you know, different family structures. So yeah, I'm very excited for Gen Z.
Yes.
They're going to be where more and more cases come from, and they're having children now.
Yeah.
They're in it, and infertility can start at any time. You know, you can be in your early 20s trying and be like, oh, not happening.
No, definitely. So I think we'll see more demand for fertility agreements.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen a lot more demand for marriage contracts, like cohaps and prenups, because I think this generation is just more proactive with that too.
Totally.
Which is great. Like taking, like, it's empowering to be able to not just let legislation determine your future. Like, we're not just going to automatically slide into this regime. We're going to decide what works for us.
Yes.
And customize it. And
yeah, I'm glad. What are your thoughts on AI in our business?
Oh, I don't know. I guess I'm not a tech person, so it scares me a little bit, but I am trying to use it. Like I am.
Nice.
I'm pushing myself. I think like Lisa Feldstein.
Yes.
She's like really good with ChatGPT, and she always posts on LinkedIn how she's using it in so many different ways, and I'm always in awe. And I did like her webinar on it.
Nice.
And after that I did start using it a bit more. And it's helpful. Like definitely we can use it to our advantage in many ways, but I still think it's not going to replace lawyers.
That's what I was getting at. No,
I don't see that happening.
No. Please, no, do not
get all your legal advice. Get some, if you need some information.
Yeah.
It's good, but you can't get accurate legal advice or customizable because it's so fact specific law. That's the thing. It's really it depends.
Yeah.
And you need somebody who can make that judgment call and give you that advice.
Totally.
Which AI can't.
No, there's new cases all the time in different jurisdictions. We're going to be watching what's happening in Australia. We're going to be watching what's happening in France and Italy and Israel, and we're going to be watching every single jurisdiction. That's not something AI does. And we also have conversations with people in other fields that help us inform our advice and know from experience so don't make your agreements, your marriage contracts or anything on
any kind of online template is very risky. Like while it's appealing to save money, I've seen cases where people have used those and then critical terms have been absent and they've later had to spend tons of money basically litigating it or arguing over it and whether the contract's enforceable. And usually when people use those templates, they don't even go to lawyers. They might just have like a neighbor witness it. Sometimes they don't even have anyone witness the agreement. And then you're really looking at it being challenged down the line. So it's not good. It's almost like life insurance, these agreements. It's like an investment. It's not fun to pay for like life or disability insurance or a will, but it's important. It's a protection.
I saw someone recently say you're either going to be paying for it at the beginning or you're going to be paying for
a lot more later.
At the end.
Yeah, you pay a small amount at the beginning or you don't do it and you might end up paying a huge amount and be in a conflict, which you don't want to be in. That might take a huge toll. Even if they're like your best friend and your surrogate is your sister, especially if your surrogate is your sister or sperm donor is a friend or somebody, like those things, you want to maintain those relationships, and therefore you should be asking, everyone should have their own lawyer and everyone should have their own counseling. And because it is a conflict. Often we're asked like to represent like both parties, but it's a conflict of interest for us to represent the surrogate and the intended parents because their interests can be diverse and conflict. And I think just like even just the exercise of going through the drafting and independent legal advice ensures that the parties are on the same page. It's not just like the agreement, having this written agreement provides a protection. It's the exercise of doing it because as you're seeing all the terms and you're going through them, you're talking about them with each other, you're seeing that, making sure you're actually aligned. And I've had one case that fell out of the process because they weren't aligned in some of their views, like on critical issues. And so just going through that exercise of having your own lawyer advocating for you, and doesn't have to be, it's not adversarial, but it's just like to make sure that your interests are truly, you are on the same page. And for things like selective reduction or things like that, like are you aligned, termination
where they're born, the birth, the process, if there's
going to be a home birth, hospital birth,
one thing I was made aware of recently is just allowing the surrogate to have a few minutes after the birth, like with the child. But some don't want that at all. Like I had a surrogate tell me, like, because there was a clause in my agreement at one point that said that the surrogate, if the parents don't arrive at the hospital on time, because they lived in another city, like close by, but that she would care for the baby until they arrived. And she was like, I actually don't want that in the agreement because I don't even want to see the child after. Like it's just, but everyone feels very differently. Totally. So that's why like you need you basically have to check Yeah.
I wouldn't say every single provision is customizable, but a lot of them are.
Yeah, totally. It should be like, it is whatever both parties wants, and then we can find cohesion, but it's like a dress rehearsal almost. You got to go through from conception to pre-conception almost.
Yeah, from like screening to all the way to post-birth.
Yeah.
And it's an opportunity to have all those conversations before, make sure that you are on the same page. So that's and I mean it's a little bit difficult sometimes mentally, because like the agreements address all the worst case scenarios, and these people have like already been through so much. And so I find it hard sometimes as the lawyer to go through like these horrible scenarios, like a stillbirth or termination, or discuss those possibilities, because I'm thinking like, gosh, they've been through so much and now here I am. But the agreement has to address like every possible scenario. Really, like they tend to be in some way they are a little bit negative and morbid, like they deal with like death of the parties and unexpected circumstances, and like at the end of the day I always try to say, this is very unlikely, this is so rare, like I haven't seen this happen, just reassuring, but it is a document that deals with all the possible things that could occur.
Sweet. Yeah, that's definitely not fun to talk about. And what happens if the transfer fails multiple times? What happens if one party dies, like you said? Thank you, Melissa, for coming to my yet unnamed YouTube channel. It is such a joy to talk to you always.
You too. Yeah, I was really happy to have a new colleague in Vancouver practicing in this area who has such a passion for it and brings personal experiences from working at a clinic. Like it's an honor to have you as a friend and colleague. And thank you for inviting me to be on your podcast. I think it was like, we talked about a lot.
We talked about so much.
Oh my gosh.